We promised you someone from the Tea parties who is going to come on and talk to us about their view here of government and what it's doing wrong, etc. Now, that person is Representative Sharon Cooper. She's a Georgia State representative. She wrote the book originally, The Taxpayers' Tea Party, a manual on how to take back your government. First, Representative Cooper, welcome to the Young Turks.
Thank you, Cenk. Thanks for having me on.
We really appreciate you coming on. You wrote that book in '94?
I did, and they did the first modern tea party for me that April in Boston, complete with Indians and an old schooner.
Okay, so you're the founding mother of the tea parties then, if you will, because you did that a long time ago.
I did, and of course it wasn't near the movement it is now. The Republicans took over, and things just settled down, and people sort of went along with the new group in Washington until they started to have problems.
Right. Now, do you agree with the current Tea Partiers that the problem is too much government interference, whether it's healthcare, finance, etc.?
Yes.
Okay, so you do. You're on that same page. All right, so now, having roughly established that, let's get into the details. Now, healthcare we can debate all day long, and I think we're on opposite sides there. But I want to concentrate on the banks here for the purposes of this conversation, because I'm very curious to see if we can come up with agreement on this. Because, you know, I know that a lot of the Tea Party people and the conservatives are very mad about the bailouts, and we're also mad about the bailouts.
Right.
We think it went to the banks, and it didn't come to us. Do we agree on that, General?
Yes.
Okay. Now, now, do we also agree that George Bush started that policy and Barack Obama continued that policy?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So Hank Paulson, Tim Geithner, all about the same policy, Republicans and Democrats. Is that roughly right?
Yes.
Okay.
And Congress had a big part of that when they said loan to people who really can't pay their mortgages back, and they really passed bills and encouraged people to do it, and they added to it.
All right. So let's get started on that then, because the way I view it, the problem is not that the government's getting too involved. The problem is that the government didn't regulate anything. They let these guys take wild risks, these bankers, and then they stepped in to bail them out, and that we haven't learned anything from that, and right now we're not regulating them again, allowing them to take crazy wild risks again with our money. Do you agree or disagree with that?
Well, I'm sort of in between. I think government has a role, and I think it's hard to hit that perfect medium. It seems like they either go too far to the left or too far to the right. I think they didn't regulate them enough, and Congress pushed policies that then helped, sort of encouraged them to do the wrong thing. We bailed them out, and now they're not doing some of the regulations that they need to do. You don't want too much government interfering, but you want enough to protect the public.
Well, I agree with that completely. So, all right, we're off to a very good start. Are you a little disappointed that the current Tea Partiers haven't really protested at Wall Street or at the Treasury Department and don't really seem to be focusing on what started the campaign in the first place, which was the bailouts?
Well, I think what's happened, there's been so much. I don't think it's not that they're not interested. I think that passed, we got into other things, and right now, healthcare, and that is my area of expertise. I chair the health committee. But I think it is just such an overwhelming intrusion, because whoever controls your healthcare controls your very life. And so I think that they are interested. They're just being hit by so many, in so many areas where they think the government is wrong. And healthcare now seems to be the primary one right now.
I hear you. I want to see if I have time for healthcare in a little bit, but I want to make sure we finish the banking topic first. Now, you mentioned while we were talking there, they gave loans to the wrong people, et cetera. But do you see that the primary problem is that they were over-leveraged, and so that even if they give loans to the wrong people, as you said, I don't want to.
No, that's what I said.
Okay.
I mean, it's people who couldn't afford to pay them back, and no interest loans, and balloons that come due in 5 years, and just assuming that something was going to change them from paying them back.
Right. Now, they did that because they didn't have to keep the loan, and that was one of the regulations that was, lifted, that they could just pass off the loan to other people. They did that because they could take out insurance and do these derivatives, the naked credit default swaps, et cetera, because nobody was watching the house, and then they were over-leveraged.
Well, they were greedy. When I mean, the Congress was pushing for it, and when they let Freddie Mac do it, and the bankers that were out there saw that other people were making lots of money, and they got greedy.
Right. Isn't it the job of the government, though, Representative Cooper, to make sure, I mean, the bankers are always going to be greedy. I mean, we're all greedy. It's a capitalist country, and it's part of our human nature. So
right.
It's the job of the government to play the ref and to say, hey, wait a minute, you can't bet $30 or, in Citigroup's case, $95 based on just $1 you have in the bank. That's too much leverage.
Right. It is. And they need to regulate. Once again, like I say, it's just hard to hit that happy medium where you protect the public, but you don't stymie business, and they need to find that. People get all upset, and I think the one thing I've learned from being in the legislature for 14 years, because I was just a citizen that got mad about what was happening and had never been in any party or anything and got active, and that's why I wrote the book. But, they're in the legislature. There are people to the far right and there are people to the far left. But most of us are right there in the middle, and we move a little to the right and a little to the left on issues, but nobody ever hears about us. And we're the ones trying to find that middle of the road, do it right, don't overregulate, but regulate and protect the public.
We're talking to Representative Sharon Cooper. She's a Georgia State representative, and she wrote back in 1994, The Taxpayers' Tea Party, a manual on how to take back your government, and the website is taxpayersteaparty.com, taxpayersteaparty.com. It seems that we have rough agreement on the financial side, and we should regulate the bankers more so they don't take these risks with the derivatives, et cetera, as much anymore. And it seems like you're pushing Obama in that case in the same direction we want to push him. So let's go to healthcare, your area of expertise. What do you think is the principal problem with this reform effort right now in the Congress? Well,
for one thing, it's totally, they haven't included any Republican areas, and it's a huge new government program that's going to help bankrupt the country. I mean, I have a real problem with burdening my children and grandchildren with my debt, and that's what it's going to do. It's not free. There are no free lunches, and the government basically does not do anything real efficiently.
But Representative Cooper, is the Congressional Budget Office, which is nonpartisan, Republicans quote it all the time, just does the numbers, say that this is not only revenue neutral, it actually helps to bring down the deficit.
Oh, that's because for the first 4 years of it, when there are no benefits to the American people, they're going to raise the taxes and collect the taxes. That's the only way they can do it. They're playing with the numbers.
No, but that's real. They are going to collect that money. So you agree it's revenue neutral. You just don't like the way they're raising the money.
Well, I mean, why should you be taxed before you start to get benefits, and then what happens in the next 10 years? They're not looking out at that. And the other thing they're leaving out a portion that covers the doctors. And if you don't pay people enough to see people, they won't see them. I mean, that's one of the trouble with the government now. Everybody keeps saying Medicare, but many doctors don't want to see Medicare patients, not Medicaid, but Medicare, which people are forced to go on when they're 65 because the government doesn't pay them. So what it costs to take care of these people.
Representative Cooper, we only have about 2 minutes left, but I wanted to see if we can do the best we can in trying to address what you're saying. So, I mean, are you concerned that they're not taxing the average guy? I mean, they're taxing, in the Senate version, the excise tax, which goes to the highest insurance packages, and in the House version, only the top 1%. Are you concerned that they're taxing the rich too much?
No, the taxing part is not what it's a scam, and that's what I'm concerned about, because they're saying they're going to do it on the back of the elderly, and because it's going to become another entitlement program that young people have to pay for, like Medicare and Social Security. And there used to be 40 workers for every person that was retired. For my grandchild, we're going to be down to where it's going to be one worker for all the people who retire, and they're not going to be able to afford it without exorbitant taxes.
Yeah,
and
so that's an assumption. You're assuming then that, well, not the current taxes that go to the rich, but you're assuming later they'll have to tax other people.
That's exactly right. And once you start one of these programs, and it's a giveaway, and people think they're getting something free, and somebody else is paid for it, you can never stop it. And that in the care of the American people. I mean, the government, people say, well, insurance regulates you. Well, insurance denial rates run about 7%, and there's somebody you can talk to. In Medicare, there's a 25% denial rate of care. And besides that, government just doesn't do things as efficiently one of the best ways for it work is when it's a combination of private enterprise and government.
Representative Cooper, I almost disagree completely with your last statements, but we're out of time, so you get the last word.
Just get active. That's why I wrote the book. I didn't know how to do it. I didn't know how to write a letter to editor. Didn't know how to reach my congressman, and that's what the book does.
All right, and the website is taxpayersteaparty.com. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
All right.
Bye.
Chris.